feel like me standing here looks silly, but I've been sitting at a desk all day. I want to stand. Hi, my name's Maddie. Welcome back. Today I'm doing a little bit of an unhaul. If you watched my recent video, which was every single book on my physical TBR, then you know I have a ridiculous amount of books. And going through all the books on my TBR made me realize that there's some I just don't think I'm ever gonna read and I'm not interested in. And then also I have books that I have read and didn't really like and just don't want to keep on my shelves. I have this bookshelf behind me, which is mostly like my decorative bookshelf. It only has a few books on it. And then I've got this little situation here, which has most of my books. I've got a little cart for my TBR and then that thing you saw. So at the moment, I just don't really have a whole lot of room for books, and I've had a stack accumulating just on the floor, and I don't really want that. I'm taking that as my sign to get rid of some books. So I have this little stack here of books that either I have read and didn't love, or just don't think I'm ever going to read that I'm gonna be getting rid of. Well, maybe not all of these. I'm actually gonna go through them, and there's some I'm on the fence about. Okay, we have 13 possible books to unhaul, so let's just get started. First, I have The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This is a book I have read and really did not like. I read this with my friend Chloe, and I did tell her I was planning on getting rid of it, and she got upset because it's the one book that we actually have read together. So I feel like I'll keep it maybe just because it was a fun little buddy read. Well, no, it wasn't fun, but it was a buddy read, and it was my first buddy read with anyone, so I don't know. But I really didn't enjoy this. This was a thriller horror book, and there's a movie actually, which the movie wasn't too bad, but I just thought the last 200 pages of this, and it's only 250 pages I think, were so boring and just repetitive. So this was just a no for me, but I'm not sure. Next we have Tentacles by Roland Smith, which is something I read in my recent reading vlog where I was rereading my middle school favorite books. I read this a ton in middle school. It's a middle grade series about these kids and like their uncle who hunt for cryptids, which are like mythological creatures. And I really loved this as a kid, but I hated rereading it. It was just really painful as an adult to read. And I don't think I have any need for it in my collection. There's a few books that I read in my childhood, like A Series of Unfortunate Events, that I do want to keep. Like one day when I have lots of bookshelves, I would love to display that series. But this definitely is not one of those, so I see no reason to keep it. Maybe someone who's actually a child would like this, so I think it's best to just give it away. Oh, okay, I didn't mention, this should go at the front of the video, but my plan is to walk around to some little free libraries around me and drop them off there. If you don't know what little free libraries are, they're basically just little boxes essentially that people put outside of their houses or outside of parks, and it's kind of a leave a book, take a book situation. There's a lot of them near me, and I thought it would be fun to just walk around, see what's in them, drop some books off, and hopefully somebody will enjoy them more than I did. I remember buying this, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is a pretty little foiled blue version of this, and I bought it at a Half Price Books a couple years ago because I just thought it was so pretty. This is something that I would maybe like to read in the future, but I don't think I'm ever gonna pick up this book in particular, like because it's so tiny and the font is pretty small, and I just don't really like reading books in this format, and I am starting to collect classics in like one special printing, or what do you call it? I guess a collection or a version of them. I'll grab them. Okay, this is it. I think it's called the Signature Classics from Barnes & Noble, or maybe you can find it other places, but I have 4 of them so far, and I want to collect all of my classics in this version. So there's no point in me holding on to this when I don't think I'm gonna read it in this format anyways. Speaking of not liking little books, I have Gone Girl in a mass market paperback, and I hate mass market paperbacks. The Sherlock Holmes is not that bad. This is awful to me. I hate these little chunky books with tiny, tiny little words on them. These are like one of my least favorite things. I bought this and the next book at Half Price Books, again, probably 3-4 years ago, before I even was a reader. This is a classic mystery thriller that I really do want to read one day. But I know 100% I'm never going to pick it up in this format, so I might as well get rid of it, and then one day when I'm feeling it, I'll just pick pick it up in the regular format. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is the book that I picked up in that same shopping trip a couple years ago, and it just fits in the same boat. I'm never going to read this, but I actually tried this one. I think I have a bookmark still in here. I got to page 192. This is a book I tried reading, I think 3 or 4 times. And each time I just got so bored and I just couldn't get into it. And I think that was mostly because that was before I really got into reading. But also I know right now I'm never going to pick this up because it's a mass market paperback. What can I say? It's time to get rid of these 2 Amish books that I have. These are from my aunt. I've talked about these at least once on my channel. My aunt was visiting and we were talking about books, and somehow she got on the topic of her used bookstore and was telling me that they have a huge Amish section. And one day I came home to these 2 books in my mailbox and a sweet little note from my aunt. I feel really bad getting rid of these because she sent them to me, but I just know I'm never going to pick these up because I have so many books. I have over 100 books on my physical TBR, and I only want to keep books that I'm really excited for. And these are ones that I just don't think I would ever read unless for some reason I did like a challenge or something to force myself to read them. So I just feel like there's no reason for me to keep them. I was shocked by how many comments I got actually about Amish books in general. Apparently people do really like them and they say they're really good. And I believe you. I just know I'm not gonna pick these up. Like, I have so many books that I would rather read and I will take forever to get through them. So these are never gonna get read. And I hope that somebody else will pick them up and enjoy them as opposed to them just sitting on my shelves in case I feel like I'm in the mood to read them one day. The first one is Amish Cooking Class, The Seekers. I don't know if this is a series or what, but I think it's just a general fiction about a cooking class maybe, something like that. And Material Witness. This one is a murder mystery, I think. Yeah, it says Buggy's Quilts and a Cold-Blooded Killer. Should I keep this? No, I won't read it. It's not fair to keep it. Next up, we have a book that I DNF'd, really did not enjoy, and that is 100 Other Girls. I bought this probably a year ago, and I feel like I had seen it all over TikTok, but looking back, I think it was really just the author's own TikToks that were being promoted that I saw. I don't think I saw anybody else talking about this or giving a review. This is basically like The Devil Wears Prada. I love that movie and I love this cover, so I was really excited for it and I picked it up on sale one day, and this was a huge disappointment. My issue with this was the writing. It was so cringy. It was like reading people who talk like the internet. You know what I'm talking about? Like when it's obvious that an author is trying to sound like everything they're saying came out of TikTok or Twitter, and it just feels so, I don't know, like teenager internet talk. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I think the general consensus is that people feel the same way. When I looked at reviews on Goodreads, I think that most people were saying the same thing. Like the dialogue and everything was really cringy and just hard to read. Like it doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm in a TikTok or something. So I think I only got like 60 or 80 pages in and I just had to DNF it. Maybe someone else will like this. Maybe like a Gen Z younger audience would enjoy this more, or just someone who isn't bothered by the cringiness. Side note, look at my cute new Awala. Ooh, we have another DNF. Okay, this is The Road of Bones by Christopher Golden. This is another really short little mystery thriller that was featured on the mystery thriller table at Barnes & Noble. This is about 2 men who are filming a documentary about, I think it's like the coldest place on Earth. Maybe not, but it's in the Arctic Circle. They're going to this really remote area and they have to go on this road trip over what's called the Road of Bones because I think there's dead bodies buried there. But it sounded like it was gonna be a really thrilling, maybe scary book, and I was so bored. It's only 228 pages, and I got like 50, 60 pages in, which for a book this small is like a good chunk of it. And I was just so bored. It was just these 2 guys on the road, they made a pit stop, had a burger. It just was really boring and I couldn't get myself to read it. The whole reason I picked this up was to have a really quick, fun read that I would just fly through, and it was just dragging and I was forcing myself to try and read it, so I DNF'd it. I had the Help in this stack, but I think I'm actually going to keep this one. I read this a few years ago and I actually really loved this, but I just know I'm never gonna reread it again, and I don't love movie covers, so I thought I would just get rid of it and let someone else have a chance to read it. I'm still contemplating it, but I don't know. The fact is, I'm not gonna reread 99% of the books that I own and keep. It's more of just a collection for me. I'm not a huge rereader, but something about this, I was like, maybe I should get rid of it. I think I might keep it because I like that it's a happy yellow color. I like that it's a yellow spine, and I did really like this book, but I don't know. It's a book that if I lent it to someone and I never got it back, I wouldn't care at all. But I think I'll keep it. I don't know what to say. This is Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and I seem to be the only person on earth who doesn't like this book. This is a YA fantasy romance, and I saw it promoted all over TikTok. The author is someone who I used to follow on TikTok. I loved her videos, and she was always talking about her book, and I was so excited for it. I was one of the people that was just waiting for release day. I actually bought it on release day. I went to Barnes & Noble and was really disappointed that they didn't have it in stores. But like, I was really excited for this, and I really wanted to support this author. I thought it was so cool that I saw her on TikTok and I wanted to support her. You know, like, it was just fun. Like, you had to be there. You had to be part of the moment, I guess. Then I finally picked it up a couple months ago, and this just wasn't good. Most of my issues with this book were in the lack of editing. There were so many mistakes. So many mistakes. I've never read anything like this. And I don't want to talk badly about the author for that. I think definitely her editing team should have edited this. It felt like no one read this before it got published. But I also just wasn't loving the story. I also found a lot of the dialogue between the two love interests like really cringy and just predictable. And the whole book felt like she just straight up copied The Hunger Games and Red Queen. I feel like I could talk forever and ever and ever about why I don't like this book, but everyone seems to love this. The Goodreads reviews are so high. Everyone on TikTok loves it, and Sarah Caroli actually just read this recently, and I was like, oh, finally. Someone who is not gonna like this book, who's gonna agree with me. She loved it. She gave it 5 stars. Which part of me is hoping that that means the newer versions of this, like the paperback and maybe there's an updated hardcover, have actually been re-edited. And I hope that that's the case. Like, I genuinely want this author to succeed, and I feel like it wasn't really fair that this book was published the way that it was. Okay, like I said, I could talk forever about what I didn't love about this book, but everyone else loves it, so I'm sure that whoever finds this in a little free library is probably gonna love it. Last time I talked about not liking that book, I feel like I upset some people. So if you loved that book, then just know I'm so happy for you. I really wanted to. Okay, moving on, we've got Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is so far the one and only book I've read by Tessa Bailey, and I had low expectations. I actually read this and Powerless for a reading blog where I read my highest and lowest rated books based off of the Goodreads reviews from what I had on my physical TBR. And this one was the lowest. So I knew it was everybody's kind of least favorite book by Tessa Bailey, and it didn't disappoint in that regard. What I remember not liking was mostly the guy. The whole idea of the two of them is like, she's this fun, happy-go-lucky person, and he is like a stick in the mud who is so rigid and doesn't have any fun, and like he at first really doesn't like her because of that. But I just thought he had no redeeming qualities, and this is also dual POV, and I felt really icky reading his point of view like scenes, so I wasn't a fan of this. Now that I'm thinking about this, this is spicy. Is it okay for me to put this in one of those libraries? Okay, last book is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I also feel like the only person on earth who did not love this book. This is a mystery thriller and maybe dark academia? I'm not really sure. I've never read a dark academia except for probably this one. So I'm not sure if it really fits into that category, but it's about these 6 friends who went to college together and they're back for their reunion, and one of them ended up being murdered back when they were in school, and now one of them is trying to force them to all like figure out who did it. This was just a book with a whole cast of unlikable characters, and I'm starting to realize that I don't enjoy books that are like that. But this is, I think, a really well-loved book. Everyone I've heard talk about this has only had positive things to say, so I'm definitely an outlier, and maybe someone will pick this up and absolutely love it. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of everything that I went through except for The Cabin at the End of the World, and The Help. So here's our little stack. I'm gonna go change because it is 96 degrees outside. That's actually the coolest afternoon we've had in weeks. So I'm gonna go change and then we can head off to go drop these books off. This one's like mystery thriller. There's not a lot of room. There is someone's picture behind here.
What?
Built into it. Oh, don't fall, camera. Oh, there's a head back there. That's scary. Is it Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Oh my god, it is.
I think it is. Okay, interesting. That's a little scary.
I have no books to bring.
There is no room to put books in here. I'm gonna have to find another one for my last couple books. Last 3 books.
Oh, you're giving away that one?
Yeah, remember when I read this?
Yes.
I hated
He
this.
said she jiggled.
He did say she jiggled.
You hated that one, I remember that.
Yeah, I tried to read this one day at the pool when we were there. Couldn't do it. And this one, do you remember this one?
You said it was like Devil Wears Prada?
Yeah, but it was all internet talk. I couldn't get over it.